Welcome to the Social Stack, your go-to channel for learning about real estate marketing based in technology. I'm Amy Stack, and in this video, you will learn the 8 steps to build social media content calendar. Welcome to the Social Stack, your go-to channel for learning about real estate marketing based in technology. I'm Amy Stack, and in this video you will learn the 8 steps to build a social media content calendar. Before we get started, if this is your first time here and you want to learn more about marketing and social media for your real estate business, start now by subscribing to my channel. Go ahead and click that red subscribe button, then make sure to click the bell icon to receive new content notifications. All right, so today, like I mentioned, we're going to be talking about how to create your social media content calendar. If you haven't watched the reasons why you should implement one of these in your business, go ahead and click that contact card that's popping up, or excuse me, the info card that you can see popping up in the corner now, and that will tell you why it's important to add one of these into your marketing strategy. The 8 steps we're going to be going over today are auditing your social media networks, choosing your channels, deciding what your calendars needs to track, making a content library for your assets, establishing workflow, starting to craft your ideas, inviting people to review them, and then of course publishing. So my pro tip is if this is your first time making a calendar for social, consider, like I said, watching some of my other videos. Another great one is to watch my social media branding video to help you make sure that you're putting out great content. So if you haven't watched how to brand yourself, go ahead and click that info card that's popping up now. And your calendar is going to be all the better for having clear goals before you set it up to guide you. So the first thing you need to do when creating your social media calendar is to actually audit all of your networks. Ooh, jumping ahead a little bit. So when you're doing that, go ahead and let me know in the comments how many platforms you're actually already using for your business. I'd love to see where everybody is and how many things you're using. But what this is going to do is help develop a clear picture of your current social media efforts, and it will let you identify areas for improvement and opportunities for new efforts. An audit is really key to fine-tuning your strategy. As you schedule some dedicated time to go through all of your current social assets, then you'll be able to tackle your updated social media strategy with the best information possible. So the information that's unique to your audience, your accounts, and your brand. So by doing this audit, it's going to really help you see what you have out there and what makes sense to keep going for your brand if you need to add anything or get rid of anything. You can actually take a look at the social media audit template that I've linked in the description of this video, and it will give you once you fill it out, it'll help give you some up-to-date details on if you have any imposter accounts out there, if your accounts and security passwords are all updated, you want to make sure you can get into everything. It will help you set your goals and your KPIs, or key performance indicators, for each of your branded accounts by platforms. It's going to help you see who your audience is and what their demographics are. The audit sheet will also help you see who's responsible for what on your team, what posts have been successful, what campaigns have been working, and what tactics you want to keep using going forward. It's also going to show you your room for opportunity, such as any gaps or if you have any underwhelming results. And like I said, we're going to be looking at those key metrics, so that template will help measure your metrics for success for the future for all of your different platforms. So go ahead and take a look at the link in the description of this video, and you can just copy that. It's just a Google Sheet. You can copy it right into your own account and start using it to audit your different social platforms. So after you've chosen or started your audit, you want to make sure that you are choosing the right channels for your business. So in the hustle and bustle of your daily schedule, it takes a purposeful effort to find the time to stay on top of new stories in tech. Like, should your brand care about Instagram Reels? Is your audience even on TikTok? So those are things that you want to consider before you start just diving into every single platform out there. If your audience isn't there, why spend the time doing that, unless that's a place that you want to build an audience? And maybe there's other people you're thinking of branching out and growing your target audience, and they're on one of those platforms. That's a great reason to add one to your social media strategy. So this is why you should really take the time to make sure you're clear on each social media platform's user demographics and review the best practices for business marketing strategies. So all you have to do is go and kind of just do a Google search, and you can search for things like Instagram marketing strategy, LinkedIn marketing strategy, whatever platforms you're considering. Just see what the general ideas are for how that strategy works. And you can also do the same type of search for Twitter demographics, YouTube demographics, and see if your target audience is actually using those platforms. The third step after you choose your channels is to decide what data you need to track. So that's very important. As you figure out what your calendar is going to look like, you want to map out what information and functionality you will be using and providing within it. So maybe you're starting simple, in which case just a simple spreadsheet might do to help track everything. However, if you're managing a developed team with dozens of different accounts, different people touching it, different platforms, you're going to need something that can tell you who's doing what, when it's done, when it's approved, and when it's published, and then of course how successful it was. So I'm going to suggest that you start with these basics. So go ahead and take notes on this one, and make sure your calendar includes at least the following. You want to list the platform that things are being posted on, the date and time, and if you're in multiple areas, make sure you include that time zone. Any copy or text that you're including inside the posts that are going out, that's a great thing to put on the calendar. You want to add all of your visuals. So if you have photos, videos, illustrations, infographics, memes, anything like that, just add that to your calendar to make it nice and easy for the person who ends up actually doing all that scheduling. And if you're doing anything with links, you want a spot to put the link in there that links to different articles or assets for people, whoever is actually doing the physical scheduling and posting on your accounts, to just have it all in one place. And then if you want to be tracking things easily after the fact, I definitely recommend adding a spot to put the link to the published post, whether it's an Instagram link, Facebook, YouTube video, wherever it is. If you're wanting to easily track how these different pieces that you've sent out are performing, go ahead and put the link in there, and then you can get to it right away to check out all those insights and analytics. Remember, you can also add more advanced details that you might potentially find helpful, and you can always drop them later if they're not needed. So some things I've seen people use that you might want to consider are platform-specific formatting information. So saying, well, this post is going to be on a feed, an Instagram feed or IGTV. This one's going in a story. This one's going to be formatted as a poll. So if you want any of that specifics, you could add that as an item to your social media calendar. If you're doing any geographic targeting, like hyper-local neighborhoods or local cities or states, something around a specific location, like in one of my other videos, we were talking about the Morton Arboretum. So if you're doing stuff specific to somewhere geographic, you can put that on the sheet too, to make sure that you know where you are targeting the people, and that you're not, maybe if you're hopping around, you have an area that's a couple of towns, maybe you want to rotate through towns and do town one day, town 2 the next day, and that way you don't have town 111 and you're never touching town 5. So if you want to put that geographical information in your calendar, you can absolutely add a column for that as well. Some people will use a value column. So if it's a short-lived topical post or a big budget evergreen showpiece, it could be recycled or broken down into parts. So that is something in the value line you would say, well, is this valuable just today? Is it something that's evergreen, meaning that you can keep recycling that content? Maybe don't put the same post every time you use it, but use that same subject and touch on it again in the future. So for example, in real estate, you could use a first-time homebuyer post several times throughout the year or across, maybe once a quarter, something like that, but just refresh what the content is, but still build off of that basic idea. Whereas if there's something special that's going on, like a couple years ago, I'm out of Chicago, we sold, not me, but the house from Home Alone went up on the market, and that was, based in the Chicago area, and that was relevant at the time and maybe not so much anymore. So that's an example of something that's not evergreen. So if you want to track what type of value that's bringing, you could absolutely add a column to your calendar for that as well. Another great thing to track if you're doing some higher level tracking is if you're doing paid or organic this is paid or organic posts. So if you are doing a paid post, maybe you want to add some additional information about budgets or different details about where it's going, when it's running, that type of stuff, so that you can really get a high level view of how that paid reach is working for your business. And if you are on a team and somebody needs to approve all of the posts, that's a great column to add to your calendar as well, because if you need to get it approved before you post it, and somebody can just go in and check off that these are approved, that will just make it much easier for the person actually scheduling it. And then if you do want to be tracking when things have been posted, which I think is good, that way you don't end up posting the same thing more than once, you can put a column in there that tracks that it has or has not been posted. And my last deep dive suggestion for adding something to the calendar is a way to track all of your analytics and results. So generally, if you're doing it at this level of complexity, you're probably relying on your analytical reports to contain and explain the information. So you could just link it to an easy, put a link in there to easily get to those analytics. Or if you don't have a report that's pulling up, you can start to just track that information in there manually. So those are all things to consider. Like I said, those first few: platform, date, time, your ad copy, visuals, links to articles and assets, and the link to the published post. Those are the ones I would suggest to start with. And all the other ones are kind of like a cherry on top. If it makes sense for your business, go ahead and add that in there as well. You guys can always take things away later on too, if you feel like you're not actually using those columns. So my next step for you is to actually build a library. So as you can see, libraries contain all kinds of stuff. You guys know that. There's tons of different things you can put in your libraries, but making a content library for your assets is almost as important as just making your calendar. So these go by all different names. You may have heard content library, content repository, media resource database, or digital asset banks. They're all the same thing. You need to have all of your information in one easy to get spot so you're not searching all over for it. So no matter what you call it, your supply of visual content should not be living on your iPhone or in a bunch of desktop folders marked miscellaneous social, at least not permanently. I know some of you guys are laughing. Go ahead and let me know in the comments if you guys are doing this right now. Where are you saving all of your assets, your pictures, your videos, stuff like that? Some great things that you can do to help organize all of your library is to use things like Dropbox or Google Drive. No matter where it lives, a social media content library needs to have a few key features. So those features should include, it should be able to hold large files. Videos take up a lot of space. Sometimes images can as well. It needs to be accessible from your phone as well as your computer. Trust me on that. It's going to make your life a lot easier if you're on the go and need to pull something up, quickly. And that goes for tablets too. So if it's available on a phone, it's probably available on the tablet as well. You want to make sure that it can be easily shared with team members, so that if you are independent right now, if you need somebody to help you in the future, you want to be able to have access across multiple people to have access. You want to make sure that you can trust its privacy features. I think that's obvious on why you want that. You also want to make sure that it provides links to individual files so that you can just plop them into your calendar, or that it could even interface with your calendar natively. There's some systems out there that can do that with you as well. So of course that's important, because you don't want to be hunting through and have to download it and upload it and do all these extra steps. So you want it to be as quick and easy as possible for you. So a quick note is that the way you set up your content library is almost as important, like I said before, as how you set up your calendar. So the less searching around for assets you have to do, the better. We want to keep this nice and streamlined. You don't want to have to spend, countless hours, minutes, whatever you're adding up, scrolling, looking through it. You don't want to do that. You just want to go in, open the file, find it, download it, and bam, you're done. So my next step for you is to actually create your layout. You want to establish a workflow. So that's step 5, is to establish your workflow. Once you've gathered all of the information needed, it's time to lay out your daily, weekly, and monthly social media plan. So you want to think about how often you want to post to each channel, the best time to post, and you'll be able to look at your analytics or research. So if you've been using your channels already, look at your analytics and see what it tells you about when your people are on, what time of the day, what days of the week. And if you haven't really started and you don't have anything to track yet, that's okay. Just do a Google search for your platform and see when people are on, and just keep an eye, make sure that it's part of your calendar every week to look at those analytics and see when you're reaching people most. A good thing to consider is what your content ratio is looking like. A lot of people are like, all right, I know I need to be posting regularly, but should I do, all, especially in real estate, I'm doing just listed, just sold, open house, all this stuff. But sometimes I want to post things about, like I mentioned, first-time home buyers, or maybe I work with, veterans. And sometimes I want to post stuff about people around town, but how do I manage that? How do I balance all of that content to make it interesting for my clients and prospective clients, that they'll keep coming back and checking out my page? So a good way to start is thinking of the rule of thirds. So we want to do a third to promote your business that will help convert readers and generate profits. You want to do a third of ideas from influencers in your industry or like-minded businesses. So not necessarily other agents, but maybe if you go out to NAR and look up some articles about, about real estate or about the market, you could put stuff like that in there. Quotes from people that you think are relevant to your business. And then of course, a third of your stories should be personal to your brand. Now that could be if you put part of your commission towards helping, rescue animals in the area. Do some stories about the animals that you've helped, something like that. So that's a third business, a third from influencers, and a third about personal. So business is going to be, those just solds, just listeds, open houses. A third would be influencers. That could be stuff about the market. How are things looking? And it doesn't even have to be just real estate. It could be, business news that's relevant to you. If you have a lot of commercial clients, if you work with a lot of doctors or restaurants, talk about what's going on with their industry, stuff like that. And then of course we talked about personal stories and how to incorporate that into your brand as well. So my next step for you, step 6, is to start crafting your posts. So you're probably full of ideas right now. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff, right? I want you to take some time to go through that old miscellaneous social folder that we talked about and start pulling together some posts. As you work, evaluate how your calendar feels. If it's too much or a lot to handle, maybe you want to dial it back with some of the details, or maybe you decide it's not detailed enough and you need to add a few columns. That's fine. Just get a feel for it, see what's working for you. On the other hand, if you're feeling totally stumped for posts and that go beyond, next week, take a look at my social media calendar content idea cheat sheet. That's going to be linked in the description of this video, so you can go ahead and take a look at that. And it's just a little cheat sheet to help kind of give you some ideas on how to generate some content. So that's how you're going to start crafting. And then my next step for you is step 7. I want you to think about, when you're building your social media calendar, to invite feedback from trusted source. So you want to review what you're doing and get feedback from some people that you really value their opinions. So once you've laid the foundation of your social media blueprint, it's time to reveal your work to the world. Or like I said, at least your trusted inner circle. You want your calendar to be easy to understand and use. So send an invite around to the people who might be the ones to help if you were in a pinch, or will one day run your content for you. Chances are they'll find some gaps, and that's okay. You can get ahead of any issues because you've already had them take a look. So some things to consider, especially if you're working with a team, is does everybody have all the passwords they need? Does the calendar clearly convey your brand and mission? And does everyone know how to find, download, and upload the correct graphics? If not, can they find it out easily? Maybe you need a little tab in your calendar with some instructions. So at the end of this step, you should have an airtight document that even the newest team member can understand. So it'd be, you bring somebody new on and they can read it and know exactly what they need to be doing. You guys ready for the last step? Okay, so step 8 is to start publishing and scheduling. Your social media calendar should be up and ready to run by now. And as you start publishing consistently, you may realize it's still taking time to sit down and manually publish your posts. And this is especially true if you're working with some high volume feeds. So you can consider using a scheduling platform to allow your posts, to allow you to post ahead of time in bulk. So you can sit down one day for an hour or two and just post everything for the week to all your different platforms. Some other social media content calendar apps and tools that can help in the planning and execution process are things like I mentioned before, Google Sheets, Dropbox, systems like Trello or Monday.com. Those are more platforms to actually use to plan out and build your calendar on, or third-party, third-party social media schedulers. So things like Buffer, Later is really good for Instagram. It just depends on what platforms you're using. There's different ways to schedule those out, different companies you can partner with to plan that all out and kind of have it run for you in the background. Honestly, there are probably as many different social media content calendar tools as there are social media managers. So if you're ready to get started, just take a look at the Google Sheets template. I have another one in the description here, linked. The template, like I said, it's linked just below the video in the description, and you can just click that and make a copy and fill it in your plan. So once you make a copy, it'll be entirely editable, so you can add columns and remove columns. But I got something started for you right there to help you kind of make space for the big 4 major platforms and focus on a weekly scale. Like I said, it's highly customizable. You can even make your own from scratch if you want to, but I thought it would be a good way to get you started. And I think we covered all of our 8 steps. So we talked about the importance of auditing your accounts. You want to see what's out there, see what's working, what's not, and start your calendar with that great information that you'll pull out of that audit. You want to make sure you're planning your strategy, posting your content, and then reviewing it and repeating it. So make sure you guys tune in weekly for new videos, and make sure to like and comment and ask me any questions you have, and I will be sure to help answer as soon as I can.